Penny Swan, Ward 4. First, let me say my disclaimer. I am speaking as a private citizen of Hillsdale and a citizen who has ran for Hillsdale City Council twice. I am an officer of Hillsdale County Republican Party. I am not speaking as an officer or for the Republican Party. I'm speaking tonight on the city Facebook page, pushing the health department's agenda on the job. I will not use vaccine because it's not a vaccine and should not be pushed as such. On October 20th, 2020, Governor Whitmer's mandates on this COVID was ruled unconstitutional. She then weaponized the health department, and they have continued to push her agenda and the jab propaganda and mask mandates at schools. Back in 2020, businesses couldn't keep going without being open. Some opened up against the mandates, were written violations, and were not able to fight the fight and just closed down. I believe there are in the hundreds around Michigan. This is the definition of tyranny. And by the city making repeated posts, 2 within 24 hours, a week or so ago, is saying, yes, as the city of Hillsdale, we are in agreement with what the health department is saying and support it, which is the exact opposite of everything the mayor and the majority of Hillsdale City Council stands for. I am sad and livid that this is happening in the city of Hillsdale, home of Hillsdale College, the one bastion in the United States that takes a stand for citizens' constitutional rights. And yet here we have the city pushing this propaganda. Hillsdale College had their graduation in 2020 against the health department mandates because they understand the United States and people's constitutional rights. Shame on Sam Fry and the city of Hillsdale for pushing the health department's propaganda. I've spoken with many who have moved to Hillsdale because of the stance of people's constitutional rights and that people aren't afraid to stand up and speak for those rights. We have nurses losing their jobs because they chose not to get the jab. They have gone from heroes to zeros because people's agenda and propaganda by the health department. And yet the city of Hillsdale on the Facebook page is promoting this propaganda and tyranny. People are literally losing their jobs because they don't feel safe taking this jab. And yet the city is pushing this propaganda. Why? It's a literal slap in the face to everyone who doesn't feel safe taking this jab, and those businesses who are fighting for their very existence since the tyranny has started. Shame, shame, shame on the city of Hillsdale. I posted on my political page today, the Hillsdale County Republican page, and my personal page, a video request from a member of parliament, Christine Anderson, to put a stop to this tyranny pushing the jab. So this is a worldwide agenda, and Hillsdale City has always been the voice against this tyranny until of late. We are literally blasted with this information. I stopped listening to the radio, I stopped watching TV. I don't want to see this propaganda on the Hillsdale City Facebook page. I could literally go on and on for an hour or so, but I'll just leave it at that. I'm saddened and ashamed of my city for allowing this. Thank you.
Thanks, Penny. Any more public comment on agenda items?
Further, what Penny was saying, I think pretty much everybody in this room agrees that it's propaganda at this point, and I don't think the city should be posting propaganda. I think you'd all agree with me.
Thank you, Lance. Any more public comment? To item H, the final new business item, city Facebook information discussion. Councilman Soha.
Right, so in line with what Penny and Lance brought up, the CDC is pushing very strongly for people to receive these shots that up until this year, well, last year, couldn't have been labeled a vaccine. And so I'm really frustrated by the fact that the city published those, and the fact that there is a lot of information available if if you'll dig for it. For example, I looked at the VAERS website. VAERS is the Vaccine Adverse Effect Reaction site that is run by the government. I looked at it today. The 2021 database is 560 megs or something like that. All the other 30 years combined is 420 megabytes. This year is 560 megabytes of adverse reactions to vaccines. All the years back to 1990 are 420 totally combined. This year, what I pulled up today when I scrubbed the database in Excel as a common limit, there were 9,263 deaths associated with vaccines with the COVID. This should be national news. The last time that the CDC had a coronavirus-related vaccine was in 1976 during the swine flu. I think 120 people died and they scrubbed it. They didn't push it, and that was just in the tests. Yesterday or maybe last week, it was released, Pfizer's documents for their 2.5 months test of their COVID-19 shot, that 1,200 people died in 2.5 months. How it's unconscionable to me that our federal government would allow these things to continue, and the fact that they're pushing so hard is tyrannical. And I don't think our city should be just abjectly publishing things that, if you'll dig, there are plenty of dissenting voices. And unfortunately, Twitter, Facebook, all the big tech companies are silencing those voices. Their algorithms are sending your search engines to NIH, CDC websites. I believe that those organizations are compromised in their integrity, and it's unfortunate. The end of this, I don't know if you've seen, but in Australia they have COVID-19 detention camps that they are contact tracing their own people, and they're putting them in these places where they can't even cross a white or yellow line. If they do so without permission or without the right equipment on, they could be fined $5,000. This is happening today, and people are being, they're going willingly because, I guess, I don't know, it's under coercion. And I don't want to see that happen in the United States, and I think the beauty of our republic is the fact that we have 50 individual sovereign entities that can fight back against things like this. And in those sovereign entities, we have communities like our own that the 9th and 10th Amendment give us authority to make decisions. And so I would just ask council to consider what is appropriate and what is not appropriate for the city to push. And if they're going to publish things to encourage the vaccine, then I would ask that we publish things that have contrary opinion so the true scientific method can be observed.
Thank you, Councilman Salah.
With that being said, I will have my second. I've had both vaccinations plus the booster shot. I'm not in a camp, I'm not dead. I'm healthy. I chose to do it. It was my choice. My doctor recommended it. I followed my doctor's wishes because I believe in the medical science. I also believe in my doctor. He's not going to steer me wrong. He hasn't done it all these years. I'm still alive. I'm still kicking. But you are entitled to your opinion, and I'm entitled to mine. Now I will respect your opinion. Please respect mine also. I'm not arguing with you on the Facebook.
Oh, hang on, I thought I'm not.
I'm not arguing with the science either.
But this is the challenge, Bruce.
This is a
I
challenge,
didn't-
it's your
I-
opinion, not mine. And that means if this council wants to agree with you, that's your choice. I'm the minority here. I'll always be the minority on this council.
That's
And I'm
not,
fine with that.
that's not the point, Councilman. I said nothing about you willingly taking, or anybody in our community willingly taking shots. I
But you're
said,
calling the science a hoax, basically what you're saying. You don't believe the science. I do.
that's not the point of the argument either, Councilman.
Well,
Should-
We're talking about social media,
Yes.
not big picture.
Right. I'm gonna respect your opinion, and please respect mine. And that's it.
That sounds fair.
So if
Dave, did you wanna add
If I may
something?
talk about the social media side. So just to be clear, because I understand some people have asked that Sam Fry be disciplined for posting this. Sam Fry didn't post this on his own. I instructed Sam to post this. So if there's someone to be disciplined, if there was, it would be me. And I will take complete acceptance of that. But that being said, what you've seen here is what we face every day. So these things have come out, and they're coming from the state, from Health and Human Services in the form of press releases. In some cases, they've come from the governor's office early on, where we had mandates. Now, and I know back then, we're talking a year and a half, we struggled with what do we post, what do we don't post. So in the interest of transparency, and particularly if you look at Facebook, there are people just like here that are in favor of it, and we're glad to see the information. There are people who were against it and opposed to it, and had their beliefs that way in both ways. As a city, we can't take a position one way or the other. All the information we get from the state is through Health and Human Services and through our agencies. We post that stuff, and I'm sitting on a couple because I knew we were gonna have this conversation tonight, which, are additional posts, because they put them out fairly frequently. We've been putting this stuff out for about a year and a half. They've been on Facebook, they've been in the council packets in some cases. We're not trying to take a side one way or the other, and we're not, as Sam has put in there in the last couple, this is for information, not that the city supports it. It's for those either who favor it or those who don't, unfortunately. The state pushes their side, which isn't in favor of it. But we're just trying to be transparent and let people make their own decisions. We're not doing it for politics, because as you can see, there's no benefit of doing it for politics here. Because we're so divided. But it's more for transparency and just for public information, and then to let people make their own decisions.
It is a controversial subject, and it does seem like it brings out very passionate opinions in all people. And I wouldn't recommend that Sam got disciplined in any way, shape, or form, especially if he was under instruction to post it. But I would question, we get press releases from MDOT, we get press releases from, I get press releases from all sorts of different state agencies, not just Health and Human Services, and I don't see those other agencies being shared on their page very much, Dave. So I would, I have mixed feelings about it too. I don't want to suppress information from people because I don't feel like that's right either. And I also don't want to appear like the city's trying to get in the muck of a political argument that we don't have any business being in the first place. It's a state agency. So,
But we do get press releases from like the economic development, which might say, how Michigan did a crowdfunding project, and that's a press release. It's overlook those, but ones of a critical nature, which is health and public safety, which is what we're about. So, like I said, it's kind of a juggling act of what.
I get it 100%. you know, on a personal side, the way I feel about it personally, I definitely more in line with what Councilman Soha thinks. Don't have a lot of appreciation for at least what Department of Health and Human Services does in regards to COVID and how they've been used in the past year or couple of years. It's a touchy subject, but I would say, you know, I mean, if we want to have a bunch of bickering and bitching and whining and moaning on our Facebook page, this is good stuff to share on there. But I wouldn't presume to direct anybody on what is shared on the Facebook page. But I would ask that we use prudence always, and that we don't post things that are going to draw people to the page for the purpose of arguing with one another, because
We could shut off all comments, and maybe that's the solution, because people go on there and just to attack people.
So don't silence the state, silence the
Yeah.
people? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Just because you disagree with them, which is what we talk about, we're trying to provide is, you know, people, allowing people to make their own decisions. But if you post something for people to consider that's not in your view, then you want to attack either the poster or the other people. And it seems kind of hypocritical. But, you know,
I would agree with that too. I would agree with, you know, people making up their mind, people personally making up their mind for themselves about what they feel. But I would, like I said, I would also ask that we be prudent with what we, I would certainly hope that we wouldn't turn off commenting on our Facebook page. Unless there was vulgarity on there or something, I should see it. That, I don't know, it's a complicated issue. I have my own feelings on it.
at this point, we have not turned off any comments for any.
I know, I understand that.
But, so it is a touchy. You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't, right?
I'd rather be damned if I don't myself, but, anybody else have any more?
I mean, when you are posting something that has such strong disagreements, I don't see how it is giving the person the opportunity to make the decision for themselves when most people aren't gonna dig into VAER's website and see that there's been, some reports were 15,000 deaths reported. Europe's website is, VAER's is the same. England's is the same as far as the numbers are concerned. America's frontline doctors, their work with ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine and zinc and vitamin D have proven results. Why is this not offered as alternatives? This is what I don't understand. And pushing the state-led thing, it's just very troubling to me. I'm not telling people don't get the vaccine. I'm saying, why should we just push the one side when there's other options available? And if people had all the information in front of them, maybe they would choose one way or another. That's my.
And that is a challenging part, because that information is not being distributed.
Which is my point.
And it's a government entity, right? We're getting that point. And we're a government entity. So that information you have isn't published by the government to share.
Are we required to share with the state? No,
We are not.
I mean,
I
would say to that point, Councilman, that we should be the example and publish the alternate information as a government entity, so that people can say, hey, the city of Hillsdale says, hey, there's other information out there, maybe we can investigate.
And, I mean.
Right? I mean.
Well, it's true, but I mean, who's saying what gets posted, what doesn't, what information should be there, what shouldn't? who say, well, here comes Q, and here comes JFK back from the dead, gonna save us all again. I mean, these tentacles just go forever, you know, and there is no, we don't trust the government either. I mean, it's just what it is. And I mean, we can sit here all day long and debate this, but there is no one truth. There's multiples, so.
And no one's, as you said, no one's distributing the opposing view. We get this information from the state. It's supposed to be a reliable source, whether I agree with it or not. There are people who do agree with it. And yeah,
That's my
It doesn't
point.
end.
We don't have to be propagators of that as a city. We don't have to.
We don't have to.
Right. And I would only request as the city, as far as these things are concerned, that we would refrain from any future distributions of this information and let the people go to the state's website if they want to do it. That's all.
I would agree with Councilman Soha. I don't want to see anybody get in trouble. I don't think anybody needs to be
Yeah, that wasn't
punished
my
or
point.
anybody needs to have their finger wagged at them, but I just assume stay out of the fray. As an entity, I understand I put myself in the fray at times as an individual and even as a representative of the entity, but as an entity in whole, we can't even sit up here and agree as a council about it. So I think we should stay out of the mix. Anybody have anything to add?
Well, do we want a specific direction on this?
This was a discussion item, and I think that it was just meant to be discussed. So, my request would be to always use prudence. So, and we do trust you guys. I do trust you. You know I trust you, Dave. I do. And Sam, as far as I know, is a good guy. I don't know him that well, but everything I know about him, I like.
Yeah, he's doing a good job.
I would just ask that we move forward with prudence regarding controversial issues and issues where there's many differing opinions and they're passionate opinions. That's just my personal.
Dennis Swain Scott here in Hillsdale. I know I haven't been up here in a while, but when I hear about this stuff that's in there about telling you to take the vaccine, not taking the vaccine, it's your choice. That's one thing that our forefathers brought forth on this nation, was to give us choice. We were under dictatorship when we were in England and all the other countries. Now, we came to this country, or our forefathers came to this country to make it so we wouldn't have to live under tyranny or be pushed by the government, to be pushed by the different ones that tells us we have to do this, we have to do that, when we don't have to do that. It's not part of our God-given rights for the government to turn around and tell us exactly when and where. And if I'm dying, okay, which every one of us is going to do that one day, and if I'm dying, I shouldn't have to be told by some government agency that I have to take the poke or I'm going to die. I lost a good friend myself that took the poke, and he turned around, and the reason he took the poke, he was going to go to Holland to see his family. 10 days after he got the poke, he died. And this was a guy that raised his own food, took care of everything, took care of his own cattle, his own. He sold meats in Chicago. That's how good his meats were and stuff. And he turned around, and he was as strong as a horse. And I got to see him 7 days before he died. And I seen him uptown here, and I shook hands with him. My brother did. And the man was doing pretty good.
7 days later, he's dead. Now, they said that possibly it could have been from the COVID shot, or he finally gave up. The guy, I don't know, I wasn't there, I'm not a doctor, but I shouldn't have to be told whether I open a newspaper. I hear enough propaganda off of, that's why I don't even listen to the news anymore. There's so much propaganda, NBC, all these news things, always, everything is propaganda. You can't turn a TV on. You can't open up a newspaper without somebody telling you, you can't do this, you can't do that. They've done this with us with the guns. They're trying to tell us that we can't have guns. They're trying to do all this stuff that's going on. And we have to listen to some maybe educated idiots that's out there telling us that we have to turn around and take a poke. I don't agree with that. That's not part of, I should have a choice. If I want to go get that shot, I'll go get the shot. But it's my choice to do such. I had almost a year ago to date, it'll be December 26th, I came down with COVID. My wife and I both had it. We survived through that COVID. We couldn't even eat, we couldn't smell, we couldn't taste anything. I forced my wife to eat crackers at least, whatever it took. And we did go get a booster shot as far as for whatever they give you in the hind end. They gave us that and a steroid shot. That was the only thing we took. I pushed the vitamin C and vitamin D once I could get to the place where I could, and quinine water, that I could turn around and do things to help out. But we came through it. We're 68 years old and we went through it. But I'm seeing people that's younger than me, 50, 40, 60 years old, that's dying from the vaccine or from COVID, whichever you want to claim it to be. But I think it's time that we don't give up on our forefathers, what they fought for and what they did, and that was to give us a choice. And each and every one of us here, and every one of these things I'm saying is my opinion. It has nothing to do with me being on any of the boards or anything else, but we are elected by the people, for the people, and of the people. And if we're elected to turn around and do what they require for us, because we can't do it ourselves. So we ask you men and women, when they're in office, to turn around and do certain things for us.
Okay,
but not
Ryan,
to dictate for us.
You've gone past your time quite a bit.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Ben.